Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we are diving into one of the most shocking, heartbreaking, and unbelievable scandals to ever rock the Roloff family and their world on Little People, Big World. If you thought the drama ended with Matt and Amy's divorce, if you thought the family feuds were already bad enough with the endless battles over Roloff farms, think again. Because what I'm about to tell you today goes so far beyond reality TV drama. This isn't just a squabble over land or family disagreements caught on camera. This is a bombshell. We're talking about a secret lawsuit filed in total secrecy against none other than Amy Roloff herself. And this lawsuit is so devastating that it has already forced Amy to sell her beloved business, Amy's Little Kitchen. Yes, you heard me right. Company Amy poured her heart and soul into, the business she built from scratch after her painful divorce, the project that fans saw as her second chance in life, gone. And if that weren't enough, the lawsuit didn't just target Amy. It went after her husband, Marek. A man who has stood by her side through thick and thin. A man who brought love back into Amy's life after years of heartbreak. According to the allegations, Chris has been falsely accused of crimes he didn't commit. And the result? He's behind bars. That's right, Amy's world has completely collapsed. She is facing financial ruin, emotional devastation, and the complete collapse of everything she's worked so hard to build. But here's the real kicker. The most shocking part of all of this. The lawsuit didn't come from a stranger. It didn't come from a competitor. It didn't even come from some random critic. No. The lawsuit came from within Amy's own family. Someone in Amy's circle, someone who should have loved and supported her, masterminded a plan so sinister, so destructive that it has now left Amy in shambles. And so we have to ask the questions that are on everyone's minds. Who in the Roloff family could possibly hate Amy this much? What kind of deep resentment had to fester for years to bring them to this breaking point? What was the ultimate goal? Was it jealousy, revenge, or something even darker? And perhaps the most important question of all, can Amy survive this? 'Cause make no mistake, this isn't just about money. This isn't just about a business. This is about identity, betrayal, and the fight for survival when your own family turns against you. So let's go back. Let's rewind. To understand the gravity of what's happening right now, we need to first understand what was at stake. Life after divorce. When Amy Roloff finalized her divorce from Matt Roloff back in 2016, many fans thought that was the end of her story. She had been through a painful breakup after decades of marriage, she had seen the farm she helped build slip out of her hands, and she was starting over at an age when most people just want stability. But Amy refused to be defeated. I can still remember her saying it. It's scary starting over, but it's also exciting. I get to decide what my life looks like now. And decide she did. Amy picked herself up. She found love again with Marek, a man who wasn't intimidated by the cameras or the fame, but who saw Amy for exactly who she was. She wrote a memoir. She released a cookbook. She began to rebuild her confidence, brick by brick, moment by moment. But the crown jewel of this new chapter, the real symbol of her independence and her resilience, was Amy's Little Kitchen. What started as a small passion project, a handful of recipes she had been making for her kids and family for years, grew into something extraordinary. Fans loved it. Tours carried it. Online orders poured in. Farmers markets couldn't keep up with demand. This wasn't just a business. This was Amy's identity. Her freedom. Her financial independence. Her chance to step out from under the Roloff name and say, "This is me. This is mine." And it worked. Industry insiders estimated that Amy's Little Kitchen was worth between $2 and $3 million. And that was just the beginning. With her name recognition, her built-in fan base, and a growing market for artisanal and specialty foods, she was poised for a major national breakthrough. But success, as we know, always casts a long shadow. And in that shadow, jealousy began to grow. The Roloff family dynamic. The Roloff family has always been complicated. Fans have seen it play out for years on television. The divorce, the sale of the farm, the endless disagreements about the future. On screen, it often looked like they were moving forward, patching things up, and learning to coexist. But behind the scenes, sources say the fractures never healed. There were lingering resentments, old wounds that never quite closed. And as Amy's star began to rise again, not everyone in the family was happy about it. For some, her success was inspiring. For others, it was infuriating. And eventually that anger, that jealousy turned into action. The envelope started quietly. No explosions. No screaming matches. Just a knock at the door one quiet Tuesday morning. Amy opened it to find a process server standing on her porch. And in his hand, a sealed envelope. A lawsuit. A civil complaint. Filed in a private court. But this wasn't just any lawsuit. This one was filed under confidential seal. That meant the plaintiff's name was hidden. The details were locked away. No one outside the case could access the documents. Plaintiff was only referred to as Party A. But the defendant? That was clear as day, Amy Roloff. And the target was her business, Amy's Little Kitchen. Now, this kind of maneuver is rare. Filing a lawsuit under seal in a civil matter, especially one involving a small private business, almost never happens. It's a strategy designed to apply maximum pressure with minimum publicity. Which means whoever filed it didn't want the world to know who they were, not yet. And when Amy read the allegations, her jaw dropped. The allegations. According to the documents, Party A claimed that Amy had stolen something. Not money. Not property. But a recipe. Yes, you heard that right, a recipe. Party A alleged that one of Amy's signature products in Amy's Little Kitchen was based on a family recipe. A recipe that supposedly belonged to the Roloff family estate. They argued that Amy had no right to commercialize it, no right to profit from it, and that by doing so, she had effectively stolen from her own family. But that wasn't all. The lawsuit demanded a full accounting of all profits from the business, going back to day one. Every single dollar Amy had ever made from Amy's Little Kitchen was to be tracked, reported, and then placed into a trust for the benefit of the Roloff family. And as if that weren't enough, the lawsuit also demanded that Amy shut down her business entirely, immediately, and sell it to satisfy this so-called debt. It was a bombshell. Complete blindside. Amy, of course, was furious. She reportedly called the claims ludicrous and malicious fiction. She insisted that her recipes were her own, created and perfected over decades of cooking for her children and friends. And those who know her best backed her up. There was no secret family recipe book. No ancient Roloff cooking tradition. Nothing of the sort. So why would someone make this claim? Well, when family jealousy and money collide, people will say and do almost anything. If you thought part 1 was intense, buckle up. 'Cause part 2 takes us into the courtroom, into the police station, and deep inside the betrayal that has left Amy Roloff broken, devastated, and fighting for survival. Let's pick up where we left off. The shock of betrayal. Amy had just learned that someone hiding behind the mysterious label of Party A, had filed a lawsuit against her. The claim? That one of her most beloved products in Amy's Little Kitchen wasn't hers at all, but instead a stolen Roloff family recipe. It was an accusation so absurd, so outrageous, that Amy at first thought it had to be some kind of mistake. Maybe it was a prank. Maybe it was some scam lawyer fishing for a quick payout. But no, it was very real. It was sealed, filed, and official. And what made it worse was the secrecy. Amy had no idea who was behind it. No name. No face. Just Party A. Think about that for a moment. Imagine opening your door, receiving a legal document that could ruin your entire life, and not even knowing which one of your loved ones was responsible. That's the kind of psychological warfare Amy was suddenly thrust into. And that's when the whispers started. Who could it be? Was it Matt, still bitter over the divorce and the farm? Was it one of the kids, frustrated by years of family drama and looking for leverage? Was it someone from Amy's extended family, maybe a cousin or in-law, desperate for money? Questions swirled. Paranoia grew. And Amy knew she couldn't trust anyone. Chris gets pulled in. But the betrayal didn't stop with Amy. Suddenly, the lawsuit began expanding. In a shocking twist, Party A's lawyers filed an amended complaint. This time, they claimed that Amy's husband, Marek, had played an active role in covering up the so-called recipe theft. And then, the unthinkable happened. Marek was arrested. Yes, arrested. Taken into custody. Handcuffed and driven away, as if he were some kind of hardened criminal. What were the charges? According to Party A, Chris had knowingly profited from intellectual property theft and engaged in fraudulent concealment of family assets. Now, let me be clear. These charges were outrageous. Marek is a real estate broker. He's not some backroom criminal mastermind. He wasn't sneaking into kitchens in the dead of night stealing family recipes. But the way the lawsuit was structured, the accusations were just believable enough to get law enforcement involved. And when Amy saw her husband being led away in handcuffs, her world shattered all over again. The media circus. A word of Chris's arrest spread like wildfire. First, the lawsuit had been sealed, hidden away. But once Chris was taken into custody, the media caught wind of it. And then, it was chaos. Headlines screamed across tabloids and news outlets. Little people, big world husband arrested in fraud scandal. Amy Roloff's business in jeopardy amid family lawsuit. Who betrayed Amy? The secret lawsuit rocking the Roloffs. For Amy, it was humiliating. Not only was she fighting for her business and her husband's freedom, she was now doing it under a blinding spotlight. Every move she made, every word she spoke, every tear she cried, it was all on display for the world to dissect. Financial collapse. And as if the emotional devastation weren't enough, the financial toll was crushing. Amy's little kitchen was her lifeline. It wasn't just a brand. It was her independence. But once the lawsuit hit, distributors began backing away. Retailers paused their contracts. Online orders slowed as customers grew confused by the headlines. To keep fighting in court, Amy had to hire some of the best attorneys she could find. And those attorneys came with massive price tags. At the same time, Chris's arrest meant he couldn't work in real estate. His license was suspended pending trial. Which meant the couple's income was slashed in half, right when they needed it the most. Within months, Amy went from financial stability to staring bankruptcy in the face. Sources close to her said she cried herself to sleep most nights, asking the same haunting question over and over, "Why is my own family doing this to me?" Inside the courtroom. Trial began in a hushed, tense courtroom. On one side sat Amy, her lawyers, and a small circle of supporters. On the other sat Party A, still shielded by anonymity at the beginning. Amy's team argued fiercely. They presented old notebooks filled with Amy's handwritten recipes. They brought in witnesses, friends, neighbors, even her children, who testified that Amy had been making these dishes for decades. "This is her life's work," her lawyer thundered. "This isn't theft. This isn't fraud. This is a mother, a wife, and a woman who built something beautiful out of love and determination." But Party A's lawyers pushed back just as hard. They brought in so-called expert witnesses, claiming that one of Amy's recipes bore resemblance to a dish served at Roloff family gatherings decades ago. They painted Amy as greedy, selfish, and willing to step on her family to get ahead. And then came the bombshell moment everyone had been waiting for. The betrayer revealed. Finally, after weeks of secrecy, the judge ordered Party A's identity to be revealed. When the name was read out loud, the courtroom gasped. It wasn't Matt. It wasn't one of the kids. It wasn't a distant cousin. It was someone much closer. Someone Amy had trusted completely. Amy's jaw dropped. Tears welled in her eyes. Chris shook his head in disbelief. The betrayal wasn't just legal. It was deeply, painfully personal. And in that moment, the true scale of the conspiracy came into focus. Amy at her breaking point. In the days after the reveal, Amy spiraled. She admitted to friends that she felt broken, humiliated, and utterly alone. She had lost her business. Her husband was sitting in jail awaiting trial. And now she knew the face behind the betrayal. But here's the thing about Amy Roloff. She may cry. She may stumble. She may even fall. But she does not stay down. Even in her darkest hour, Amy began to plot her comeback. She refused to let this be the end of her story. Because if there's one thing fans know about Amy, it's this: she is a fighter. And that, my friends, sets the stage for part 3. Because in the final chapter, we will reveal exactly which family member betrayed Amy, how far the conspiracy went, and whether or not she and Chris were able to fight their way back from the brink. And trust me, the ending will shock you even more than the beginning. Welcome back, everyone. This is the moment you've been waiting for. The final chapter. The ending that no one saw coming. We've already seen Amy blindsided by a sealed lawsuit. We've watched Marek, her beloved husband, dragged away in handcuffs. We've seen Amy's finances collapse and her reputation thrown into chaos. But now the question must finally be answered. Who betrayed her? Who was Party A, the secret plaintiff who set this devastating chain of events into motion? Well, in the courtroom, the name was finally read aloud. And when it was, the air seemed to be sucked out of the room. The betrayer revealed. The name? Molly Roloff. Yes, Amy's only daughter. Quiet one. The one who had stepped away from the show years earlier. The one fans thought had escaped the chaos of Roloff family drama to live a peaceful life with her husband Joel. 4 years, Molly had stayed out of the spotlight. She rarely appeared on social media. She almost never gave interviews. And most fans assumed she wanted nothing more than to protect her privacy. But behind that quiet exterior, a storm had been brewing. According to court documents, Molly believed that one of Amy's best-selling products in Amy's Little Kitchen, a specialty baked good that had become a fan favorite, was based on a dessert recipe that Amy had once learned from Molly's grandmother on her father's side. Molly argued that this recipe belonged to the Roloff family estate, not to Amy alone. And more than that, she believed Amy had deliberately cut her children out of the profits of her growing business. Molly's lawyers painted a picture of resentment. They said Molly had felt sidelined, overshadowed by her brothers, and abandoned by her mother's decision to move on so quickly after the divorce. In Molly's own testimony, she admitted through tears, "It's not just about money. It's about respect. I felt like Mom never valued me the way she valued the others." This business was the last straw. Courtroom was stunned. Amy herself was shattered. Amy's response. When Amy took the stand, her heartbreak was visible. She didn't come with fire or anger. She didn't lash out. Instead, she spoke directly to Molly, her voice trembling but firm. "Molly, you are my daughter. I have loved you every single day of your life. These recipes, they are mine. They are part of me. But I would have given you everything without a lawsuit, without this pain. All you ever had to do was ask." The silence in the courtroom was deafening. For a moment, it looked like Molly might break. Her eyes filled with tears. But the bitterness ran too deep. She turned away, unable or unwilling to reconcile.